Hey everyone, this is Corey with Sims Investment Management, and this is our monthly update. And I'm getting this in right at the wire, April 30th this month, because it's been a super busy month as we got through the end of tax season. We were working on some internal projects here, and we're very thankful to have the busy tax season behind us. First, I want to start out this newsletter with a huge congratulations to our advisor Blake Bagshaw, who recently passed his CFP and has completed all of the work requirements in order to use the CFP letters and accreditation. So kudos to Blake. I saw firsthand how much time and energy and effort he spent into accomplishing this and the sacrifice that he had to make, not only personally, but then his family had to make as well. So huge congratulations to Blake. Next, this month's newsletter, I think, I really hope people take the time to read because it talks about the effect of money and happiness and some of the recent studies that might be fairly eye-opening. Rockefeller, who is considered the wealthiest American to ever live, was once asked, how much money is enough money? And his response was just a little bit more. And so what's fascinating is this study, several of these studies continue to show that the average person, if you ask them how much more money would they need in order to be happy from an income standpoint, is usually about 50% more than what they're making. And that's across all income spectrum. So, that's not someone that's barely passing, getting by, and that's not someone making uber wealth. It's across all the income spectrum. The other thing that I think is fascinating is they did a study on people that have already accumulated wealth and the question of how much wealth would you need to be happy, and they roughly responded 2 times of what they had. And so I think that's important is we talk with clients a lot about setting the goals, getting the plan in place, and then letting your portfolio do the work for you. And there can be this elusiveness to happiness no matter how much wealth you have. Your goals that you make should not be driven just by essentially accumulating money. What we also find a lot of times is clients, when maybe they're getting frustrated with the market, with their investment performance, it's usually driven because they're unhappy in some other aspect of their life, right? Maybe they're going through turmoil, or there's been some emotional distress or life events, or oftentimes they're just really unhappy at their job. And so they're putting so much strain on pouring their happiness into getting to some type of wealth number instead of really looking deep into what is causing this unhappiness. And so those are the conversations that we're blessed to be able to have with our clients to try and help them work through that. And honestly, it can be one of the most rewarding parts of this job. So hope you guys give the article a read, and hopefully you find it as insightful as I did. A couple other resources. We have a JP Morgan chart that kind of echoes a similar conversation of what we can control, what we have a little bit of control over, and essentially what we have no control over when you consider financial planning. So I think that's a really great resource. And then last but not least, I saw this, also very fascinating, that people have been hyper-focused on interest rates for the past 2 years. And I understand why, because honestly, interest rates were pretty much non-existent for 15 years. And, the yield curve has been inverted for almost 2 years. And what that means is the short-term bonds are actually paying more interest than long-term bonds. And usually when that happens, which is not typical, right? Typically short-term bonds pay less interest than long-term bonds because you're taking on more risk for longer-term bonds. So you should be paid more for them. But when a yield curve inversions, the short-term bonds actually are paying more than the long term, and that's because people expect some type of market turmoil or recession to happen almost imminently within certainly the next 6 to 12 months. Well, we've had this yield curve inversion for 2 years, and that was a sign that a lot of people said, well, my gosh, a recession's coming and is coming. And yet the market's up 40% since that yield inversion first started. So I saw that statistic recently. I thought it was absolutely fantastic because it again stresses the importance of why you don't try and time the market. Instead, you create goals and you create a financial plan that's based on when you are potentially going to need the resources and the funds that you're saving for. So a short-term bucket of money should be relatively conservative if you have short-term goals. A longer-term bucket of money should be aggressive more for the long run and stick to your plan. So that's it for this month. I hope you enjoy the resources, and we'll talk to you in May. Thanks.